Hey guys, welcome back. We just finished lab 2, which is connecting to this autonomous database I just created. This is database actions. This is where we left off. Now we are moving on to lab 3. We're going to connect to a database, which we've already connected, create a table, and then REST enable a table. So let's just go ahead and scroll down here. Looks like we've got 3 different tasks, but task 1 we're already kind of there. So all this says is just from your console, which let's just go back to the database. I can show you. Remember, just make sure you're in the correct compartment. So I believe we created it in this root compartment here. So if I click on this, I click this drop down and I have all my options here. So I think our instructions are just saying, just click the SQL to take you to the SQL worksheet, which that's where I am. That should bring us back to. So here, you'll click through the tour if it happens, and then come down here to step 2, and then we're downloading this CSV file. So in the last video, I talked about how this was a pre-authenticated request. And if you wanted to do that, I'm sure there's a LiveLab for that, but there's also documentation. So moving back to the actual lab, I'm on Safari, so your browser behavior might be different, but I'm just gonna click allow. So there's actually a few different ways that you can upload. Since we haven't created this table yet, this is probably going to be like one of the easiest ways for us. So you've got your different consumer groups here. The low is the default. We don't need to change it. This is not a big file. It's all right. So again, that's what the CSV data looks like. And we could take a gamble here and just click upload. But I think in our labs, the lab, we actually have to do some things. So yeah, so click settings. I guess we're not changing much. Again, you see it's only 7 rows. We do say to change the name of the table to CSV data. You could really change it to whatever you want, but it's probably easier to just keep it that way because that's what we refer to it in the labs. So like there's different commands that we're using with the name of that table. It's just one less thing for you to have to worry about. All right, so if you look at the bottom right hand here, I'm gonna just click next, and that takes you to that corresponding screen that we see here in the lab. It's basically parsing the name, or it's basically taking the name of the file. So it's CSV underscore data.csv, and it's just using that as the name. So we don't have to change anything with column 3, the number. I know you could add like the length and precision, but we're not going to go that far, and we're not doing anything with primary keys, the PKs here, because it's only gonna be one table, so we're not like linking this table to anything else. I'm pretty happy, pretty happy with how everything looks here. I got my table name. I'm gonna go ahead and save settings. If I exit out of here, it's gonna cancel this job. But if I click upload, then it will upload the data here. And since this is only 7 rows, it takes, that was like 2 seconds. You should see the green upload there. Now what we're doing is we're saying, okay, we can exit out of here. And here's kind of a tricky thing. So I think this is just depending on how your browser behaves. So this navigator tab, this navigator window here, you would expect like everything to be there, like your tables. Like we just uploaded a table, but it's not there. Sometimes you have to click the refresh button and then it's there. So I'm not sure if it's a browser thing. But if you're like, hey, where's my stuff? Just click that refresh button. And now we're getting into task 3 here. So let's go back and I'll just follow the directions. So what I just did is I just right clicked on the table. I should say object because like if you see this drop down menu here, it has all of our objects. So if I was to click all objects, it would show me everything. But I'll just click on tables. So if you want to be like more discreet, at the things that you're looking for, you can select based off of what it is that you're looking for. I'm concerned with this table. So the instructions say, hey, we're going to look at this table, even though we just uploaded it and it's only like 7 rows, but just for the purposes of understanding the navigation here, the 2 most common things you're probably going to work with, well, 3 most common things are open, edit, and then rest. Actually, while we're here, this is another way that you can upload more data to this table here is through the upload data. You can actually upload data. You can insert data into this table in the SQL worksheet also and execute that, and it'll do it. Or you can go back to the data load and append to a new table. So if I click on open, it'll show you the stuff that you just uploaded. You've got your data here. Okay, and you can actually right click. There's a lot of right click functionality in this GUI, graphical user interface. Say for instance, I'm concerned with like just row 1. I can click on row 1 and I can click single record view. It shows me the details here, but there's not really much here to look at, right? So we'll exit out of there, but I'm going to close there. Go back here and we'll click on edit. So edit is a little bit different of a representation of this table. Here is, how would you say this? I guess this is more like administration, you know, for your table or for your objects. You can see all the different tabs down here if I can click through them, you know, to see what I have. I would say like the most important thing is it's like a cheat sheet. Your DDL, you can click on create. So there's two tabs. There's the update and the create. You can click on the create, and then you can copy this, close out of here, and I can paste the how to create this table. I could share this with somebody. Somebody was like, if somebody asks you like, hey, how did you create that table? It's done for you automatically, but you can grab that. Just make sure if you're sharing it with somebody, you want to remove like the schema name. I'm not sure if you saw that. So like I'm in admin right now, but if you give this to somebody else and they try to run that with the admin schema, that's just not going to work. This will work, but I'm logged in as admin. Like say for instance, I was logged in as like I don't know, test user 1. I could just run this and it would work, or if I wanted to, I could do this. I could do test user dot, you know, whatever. But it'll still work either way. So again, let's open and edit. Those are the two tabs. I don't know if we go in that much detail in the lab, but it's good to know. And then in task 3, we're looking at auto rest enabling a table. So now we're actually getting into like ORDS. This is your first introduction into ORDS. So again, I'm on my table, and you can do this with pretty much all these objects here. We're just working with a table because it's like the easiest thing for us to work with. But if you have like a function or a PL SQL procedure, you can rest enable those. There's support for JavaScript modules. You can work with those. But for here, this is like we're showing you like the crawl, walk, run method as far as like these REST APIs go. This is like crawl into walk. So if you're like, I just want to turn this thing into an API, this is the easiest way to do it. Right click, you go down to REST, and then you've got this little plug here. You click enable, and then this slider will appear. Your object alias, it's going to be pre-populated with whatever the object name is here. In this case, we can leave it as is because I mean this is just like a LiveLab. This is a tutorial. But say for instance you had some sort of payroll operation, like some sort of like month end or year end reconciliation or something like that, where this API that you're about to create, you can post, you know, you can send employment data to it, and what will happen is that API will execute some SQL or PL SQL, whatever that procedure is. And say, for instance, in this case, that procedure does some tabulations and then it adds some details to some data or something like that. Well, if the name of that function was like year-end payroll reconciliation, you know, all with underscores, a couple things. That might be pretty long, you know, to have to type that for one. And that might be a little bit too prescriptive for whatever users are going to consume this API. You may not want to divulge that level of detail. Well, in this case, like let's say we have CSV data. You know, you may want to just do like table 1, for instance, something like that. You know, now that may be a little too obscure. And that may be a little overkill when it comes to like, you know, not protecting, but like to making these endpoints a little bit more opaque. But that's just something to consider. And this mimics what our lab says here. You can see here, it's just CSV underscore data. And then we click enable. You get this little toast down here on the bottom, shows you that your object has been rest enabled. So when you rest enable something, you'll see this little plug here, which looks like your plug here. And that's how you know that something is auto rest enabled. And you can hover over it. It'll show you that it's rest enabled. Next thing we do here is we say, we're going to, you can do a couple things. So if you go back to rest, you'll see this new option here for curl command. There's a couple of ways that you can actually grab this endpoint. Let me back up. So when we auto rest something for you, we automatically give you these endpoints. Get all is, I want to get everything in this object. Get single is I want to get something by this row ID. And then we can post things to this. So if, for instance, if we were going to do this on a command line using curl, that's how we would do that. we are going to use batch load. So batch load is kind of special. It allows us to load, in our case, I think we're loading like a CSV file that has like 2 million plus rows in it or something. And that's pretty neat. So yeah, it kind of like chunks things and sends them over. It's for larger files. But in this case, we just want, our lab just says, hey, go here and copy this. So if I just copy this, you can go to a new browser, and then you can see here, unfortunately this is Safari, so it kind of prints kind of weird like this. But if I come down here, to the network tab, if I right click on the page and I go to inspect element, that's just like your developer tools, the equivalent that you see in like Firefox or Edge or Chrome. They're all called something slightly different. But this is the actual payload that came across from our endpoint, from our API. So this is the result or the product of, when we request. Unless you code this differently, it's going to come across with these different properties here. So items, and then you have all your items here. These are all your rows and columns, and then there's some other properties here. We don't have any more results. Otherwise, if we did, then in addition to this first link down here, we would see a next link, and then in some cases we'd see a previous link. But we only have 7 results, so there's no more stuff. And I know there's no more stuff because we always provide this property here. This has more relates to is there more stuff? Is there more results that you can pull down or you can bring back? And ORDS is saying no, there's nothing. That's like saying has more, and then you would respond with false, versus has more, true. Anyway, that's it for lab 3. And then in lab 4, what we do is we're actually going to simulate some business logic. So we have like a PL SQL procedure. We compile that, and then we kind of tickle it, and then we reproduce that same business logic. We lift and shift that stuff into our own custom API. So that's going to be in lab 5. All right, so stick around, and I'll see you in the next one.